The morning after the dinner, Nicole woke to sunlight slicing through the curtains like an accusation. Tae-Won's arm was draped across her waist, his breathing deep and even against her shoulder blade. The weight of him felt different now, heavier, like an anchor she hadn't noticed slowly dragging her down until the water was over her head. She extracted herself carefully, watching him stir but not wake. In the bathroom mirror, she looked the same. Same face, same eyes. But the woman staring back felt like a stranger wearing her skin. Work became her religion. By 8 a.m., she was already at her office, buried in spreadsheets and vendor contracts. She took on 3 new events that week despite her assistant's concern about the workload. A tech company's product launch, a charity gala for a children's hospital, an anniversary celebration for a luxury hotel chain. "Are you sure you want all of these?" her assistant asked, hovering in the doorway with her tablet. "That's going to be nearly 70-hour weeks for the next month." "I'm sure," Nicole said without looking up. "I can handle it." Because if she was working, she wasn't thinking. If she was solving logistical nightmares and managing difficult clients, she wasn't remembering the way Tae-Kyung's hand had felt in hers, the electricity that had shot through her entire body from a touch that lasted less than 3 seconds. She stayed late every night, coming home after Tae-Won was already in bed. She left before he woke. When they were together, she performed the role of devoted fiancée with an intensity that bordered on manic. She cooked his favorite meals, braised short ribs that required hours of attention, homemade kimchi that stained her fingers red, delicate Pajeon that had to be flipped at exactly the right moment. She initiated intimacy when normally she would have been too tired. She laughed at his jokes with a brightness that felt painted on. "You seem really happy lately," Tae-Won said one evening, pulling her close on the couch. "Like really happy. It's nice." Nicole smiled and kissed him, swallowing the guilt that tasted like copper on her tongue. She was a fraud, a liar, a woman trying to love a good man while her heart was locked in a holding pattern 7 years old, circling an airport she could never land at. At night, when Tae-Won slept beside her, she stared at the ceiling and counted the ways she was betraying him. With her thoughts, with her memories, with the way her body still remembered Tae-Kyung's touch like muscle memory she couldn't unlearn. The infinity bracelet on her wrist caught the moonlight filtering through the window. She touched it unconsciously, running her thumb over the silver symbol until the metal warmed against her skin. Forever. What a stupid, naive promise. Across the city, Tae-Kyung was fighting his own war. He'd forgotten how much he enjoyed his cousin's company. Tae-Won had always been the lighter one, the one who found joy easily and shared it freely. Being around him was like standing in sunlight after years in shadow. They met for drinks at a high-end bar with a view of the Han River. Caught up on the years apart, Tae-Won talked about the business, about his grandmother's declining health, about how grateful he was to have family close again. "And Nicole," Tae-Won said, his face softening the way it always did when he mentioned her. "God, I can't wait for you two to really get to know each other. She's incredible, man. Smart, driven, kind. She's been through so much and she just keeps going. I've never met anyone like her." Tae-Kyung's fingers tightened around his whiskey glass. "She seems great." "She is." Tae-Won leaned forward, eyes bright with the particular enthusiasm of a man in love. "You know what the best part is? She makes me want to be better. Not in that guilt trip way, but just, she inspires me. Makes me think about legacy, about what kind of man I want to be. Does that make sense?" "Yeah," Tae-Kyung said quietly. "It does." Because he remembered feeling exactly that way. Like Nicole's existence made the world sharper, more vivid, more meaningful. Like loving her was both the easiest and most important thing he'd ever done. His phone felt like a live grenade in his pocket. At home, alone, he pulled up her contact. The number was new. He'd found it through business channels, telling himself it was just in case he needed to coordinate something for one of the family gatherings. A rationalization so transparent it was insulting to his own intelligence. His thumb hovered over the call button. What would he even say? "I can't stop thinking about you. Seeing you again broke something open in me that I thought I'd sealed shut. I'm sorry for being angry." For thinking you left me. For not trying harder to find you. I still love you. He locked his phone and threw it on the couch like it had burned him. Yuna emerged from the bedroom in silk pajamas, her hair loose around her shoulders. She was beautiful in that calculated way, everything perfectly placed, nothing accidental. You're brooding again, she observed, pouring herself a glass of wine. Just thinking about the expansion, he lied. She settled beside him, close but not quite touching. You've been distracted since we got back. Since that dinner at your grandmother's. His spine went rigid. Have I? Your cousin's fiancée, Yuna said casually, studying her wine. Nicole, what do you think of her? The question landed like a punch. She's nice, Tae-Kyung managed. Seems good for Tae-Won. She's very pretty. Yuna continued, her tone light, conversational. In that understated way. Natural. Unpolished. Some men find that appealing. I guess. Do you? He turned to look at her. Yuna's expression was neutral, but her eyes were sharp. Assessing. She was testing him, though he couldn't tell if she knew something or was fishing. She's my cousin's fiancée, he said carefully. I don't think about her that way. Yuna held his gaze for a long moment before nodding. Good. Because you know I don't share what's mine. She kissed him then, her lips cool from the wine, and he kissed her back because it was expected. Because refusing would raise questions he couldn't answer. But when he closed his eyes, all he saw was Nicole's face across that dinner table. The shock in her eyes. The way she'd trembled when their hands touched. Later, when Yuna was asleep and the apartment was silent except for the hum of traffic far below, Tae-Kyung sat on the balcony and let himself admit the truth. He was in love with a woman he couldn't have, and it was going to destroy him. 2 weeks passed in this fragile equilibrium. Nicole worked herself to exhaustion. Tae-Kyung threw himself into business deals with single-minded focus. Taywan planned their future with oblivious joy. Yuna watched everything with eyes that missed nothing. Then Tae-Won sent a group text. Dinner this Saturday? There's a new place in Gangnam I want to try. The 4 of us? Nicole's hands shook as she read the message. She was in a meeting with a vendor, nodding along to a discussion about floral arrangements while her internal world collapsed. She couldn't do this again. Couldn't sit across from Tae-Kyung and pretend. Couldn't watch Yuna's hand on his arm and smile through the nausea. Couldn't listen to Tae-Won talk about wedding plans while her heart screamed that she was marrying the wrong man. But she typed back, sounds perfect. Can't wait. Because what else could she do? That night, she stood in the shower until the water ran cold, forehead pressed against the tile, and wondered how long she could keep pretending before she shattered completely. The answer, she suspected, was not much longer. Across Seoul, Tae-Kyung stared at the same group text and felt something crack in his chest. He typed and deleted 5 different responses before settling on, I'll be there. Yuna read over his shoulder. Another family dinner. How lovely. Her smile was pleasant. Her eyes were ice. The restaurant was the kind of place that whispered money. Soft lighting, minimalist decor, tables spaced far enough apart that conversation stayed private. A hostess in a black dress led them to a corner booth with a view of the city lights sprawling below like a circuit board come to life. Nicole had spent an hour getting ready, trying on 6 different outfits before settling on a deep emerald wrap dress that Tae-Won loved. She'd done her makeup carefully, her hair styled in loose curls that cascaded over one shoulder. She looked beautiful and put together and completely in control. She felt like she was walking to her own execution. Tae-Won's hand was warm at the small of her back as they approached the table. Tae-Kyung and Yuna were already seated. Yuna looked immaculate in ivory silk, her posture perfect, a slight smile playing at her lips. Tae-Kyung wore a dark shirt, sleeves rolled to his forearms, revealing the tattoos that disappeared beneath the fabric. He looked up as they approached, and for one unguarded second, Nicole saw naked longing in his eyes. Then the mask slammed down. You're here, Tae-Won said warmly, the only one genuinely happy to be there. This place got a Michelin star last month. I thought we should celebrate properly. Celebrate what? Nicole asked, sliding into the booth across from Tae-Kyung. Their knees almost touched under the table. She shifted away like she'd been burned. Family, Tae-Won said simply, reaching for her hand. Having everyone together. Having you. Guilt twisted in her stomach like a knife. Yuna ordered wine with the confidence of someone who knew exactly what she wanted and expected to get it. The conversation started safe, business, soul's growth, upcoming holidays. Tae-Won dominated the discussion with his usual easy charm, pulling everyone in, making even Yuna laugh occasionally. But underneath the pleasant surface, currents of tension ran deep and dangerous. Nicole could feel Tae-Kyung's eyes on her even when she wasn't looking at him, could sense the weight of his attention like a physical touch. Every time she lifted her wine glass, his gaze followed. Every time she smiled at something Tae-Won said, she saw Tae-Kyung's jaw tighten almost imperceptibly. Yuna noticed too. Her eyes tracked every micro-expression, every moment of eye contact that lasted a fraction too long. "So Nicole," Yuna said, her voice pleasant, "how did you end up in Seoul?" It's not the most common path for an American event planner. Nicole took a sip of wine to buy time. My company opened a branch here. I had experience with international clients, and I'd studied in Korea briefly during college, so I was a natural fit. You studied here? Yuna's expression was curious, innocent. Where? Nicole's throat tightened. Just a small university. I was only there for a year before I had to go back to the States. What made you come back now? Yuna pressed. After all that time? Opportunity, Nicole said carefully. And I guess, unfinished business. I loved Seoul when I was younger. Felt right to return. Across the table, Tae-Kyung's fingers tightened around his glass. His knuckles went white. Unfinished business, Yuna repeated thoughtfully. I like that. Some things are worth returning to, aren't they? The question hung in the air like smoke. Speaking of returns, Tae-Won interjected, oblivious. We should plan a trip to Jeju Island, all four of us. Maybe after the wedding? A celebration trip. That sounds wonderful, Yuna said, still looking at Nicole. Though I imagine Nicole must be quite busy with wedding planning. Have you chosen a venue yet? We're looking at a few options, Nicole managed. Spring weddings are so beautiful. Yuna continued, her manicured nails tapping against her wine glass. Though they require so much advanced planning, making sure every detail is perfect. No surprises. The emphasis on the last word was deliberate. Nicole met her gaze and saw the challenge there. Yuna knew something. Maybe not everything, but enough to be dangerous. I need to use the restroom, Nicole said abruptly, sliding out of the booth. Her hands were shaking. She needed air, space, anything to escape the suffocating weight of this performance. The bathroom was down a hallway away from the main dining area. Nicole leaned against the sink, gripping the cool porcelain, and tried to remember how to breathe. You can do this. Just get through dinner. Smile. Nod. Go home. Bury these feelings so deep they can't claw their way back up. The door opened. She looked up, expecting to see Yuna. It was Tae-Kyung. You can't be in here, she said immediately, panic spiking. The hallway, he corrected, holding the door open. I'm not in the bathroom. Yet. Tae-Kyung. We need to talk. There's nothing to talk about. She tried to push past him, but he stepped into her path. Not touching, but close enough that she could smell his cologne. Something cedar and smoke that made her head spin with memory. Nicole, please. His voice was low, urgent. Just 5 minutes. Someone's going to see us. Then let them. She stared at him, shocked. What? He ran a hand through his hair, and she saw the desperation in his eyes, the cracks in his carefully maintained control. I can't do this. I thought I could, but I can't. You're 5 miles away from me, and it feels like you're on another planet. I see you across a table and I can't touch you. Can't talk to you. Can't. Stop, Nicole whispered. Please stop. Why? Because it's easier to pretend. He stepped closer. Is that what you're doing? Pretending you don't feel this. What I feel doesn't matter. Her voice broke. You're with Yuna. I'm engaged to your cousin. Your family. Tae-Won is your family. I know that. The words came out harsh, anguished. You think I don't know that? You think I'm not tearing myself apart over this? Tears burned behind Nicole's eyes. Then what do you want from me? I want to know if it was real. He was so close now she could see the flecks of gold in his dark eyes. 7 years ago. Was it real? Or have I built it up in my head into something it never was? It was real, she breathed. It was the most real thing I've ever had. Something broke in his expression. Then how do we walk away from it twice? Because we have to. A tear slipped down her cheek. Because the alternative destroys 3 people, maybe 4. Because I can't. I won't do that to Tae-Won. He's a good man. He loves me. I love you. The words fell between them like a stone into still water, ripples spreading outward, changing everything. I never stopped. Nicole's breath caught. Her hand came up instinctively, touching the infinity bracelet on her wrist. Don't say that. Why not? It's true. His hand rose toward her face, hovering there, not quite touching. Tell me you don't love me. Tell me that what we had is dead, and I'll walk away. I'll spend the rest of my life pretending you're just my cousin's wife. But if there's even a chance. There's no chance, she said, but her voice shook with the lie. Look me in the eye and tell me you don't think about us. About what we could have been. She couldn't. God help her, she couldn't. That's what I thought, he said softly. They stood there, suspended in the moment, his hand still raised near her face, her eyes locked on his. The air between them hummed with 7 years of unspoken words, unresolved longing, impossible desire. He leaned in. She didn't step back. His hand finally made contact, fingers brushing her cheek with a gentleness that made her want to weep. Her eyes fluttered closed. His breath was warm against her lips. The space between them narrowed to nothing. There you are. They sprang apart like they'd been electrocuted. Yuna stood at the end of the hallway, arms crossed, her expression unreadable in the dim light. But her eyes were laser-focused, calculating, recording every detail of what she'd just witnessed. I was wondering what was taking so long, Yuna said, her voice pleasant, conversational. She looked at Nicole. Everything all right? Fine, Nicole said quickly, her voice too high. Just needed a minute. Headache. Yuna's gaze slid to Tae-Kyung. And you? Checking on her, he said smoothly. Tae-Won mentioned she hadn't been feeling well earlier. How thoughtful. Yuna's smile was sharp as a blade. Such a caring family. The word family landed like an accusation. We should get back, Tae-Kyung said, moving past Yuna toward the dining room. Nicole followed, her heart hammering so hard she thought it might burst through her ribs. When she glanced back, Yuna was still standing there, watching, her expression cold and knowing. The rest of the dinner was agony. Yuna's hand stayed possessively on Tae-Kyung's arm. Her questions to Nicole became sharper, more probing, wrapped in polite curiosity. Tae-Won noticed nothing, happily planning future gatherings, talking about the wedding like it was the most certain thing in the world. Nicole barely tasted her food, barely tracked the conversation. All she could feel was the ghost of Tae-Kyung's almost touch on her cheek, the weight of Yuna's suspicion pressing down on them like a vice. When they finally said their goodbyes, Yuna hugged Nicole with particular firmness. We should have coffee sometime, she said sweetly. Just us girls. I'd love to get to know you better. It sounded like a threat. In the car ride home, Tae-Won talked about how well the evening went, how nice it was to have family close, how he was so glad everyone was getting along. Nicole nodded and made agreeing sounds while staring out the window at the Seoul lights blurring past. She was drowning, and no one could save her but herself. Nicole's office had always been her sanctuary. The space was small but efficient, desk facing the window, shelves lined with binders and fabric samples, walls covered in mood boards for upcoming events. It smelled like coffee and paper and the lavender candle she kept burning to mask the stress. This was where she was competent, where she had control, until Tae-Kyung walked through the door. It was 2 in the afternoon, the day after their near miss in the restaurant hallway. Nicole was on a call with a vendor, negotiating last-minute changes to a floral arrangement, when her assistant's voice came through the intercom. "Ms. Reynolds? There's someone here to see you. He says it's urgent." Nicole's stomach dropped. She knew. Somehow she knew. "I'll call you back," she told the vendor, ending the call mid-sentence. Her hands were already shaking. When Tae-Kyung entered, he looked like he hadn't slept. His shirt was wrinkled, hair less carefully styled than usual. But his eyes were determined, burning with purpose. "You can't be here," Nicole said immediately, standing behind her desk like it was a barricade. "We need to finish what we started." He closed the door behind him with a decisive click. "There's nothing to finish. This is my workplace, Tae-Kyung. You can't just. I need to know." He moved closer, ignoring her protests. "I need to hear you say it. Did you ever stop loving me? Yes or no? That's not fair. Nothing about this is fair." His voice rose, then dropped again, controlled fury giving way to something rawer. "You vanished from my life without explanation. I spent months looking for you. Months thinking you just left me like I meant nothing. Then I find out your father died, that you lost everything, and I hate myself for being angry. But I also can't help wondering." "Wondering what?" Her voice was barely audible. "If you ever tried to reach me, if you ever thought about me, if any of what we had meant to you what it meant to me." The words hung between them, heavy with 7 years of unanswered questions. Nicole's composure finally cracked. "Of course I tried. I called you over and over. Your phone was disconnected. I contacted the school and they said you'd withdrawn. I was drowning, Tae-Kyung. My father was dead. We were bankrupt. My mother was falling apart. And the one person I needed more than air had disappeared, and I had no way to find you. I changed my number," he said hoarsely. "After 2 weeks of your phone going straight to voicemail, I couldn't take it anymore. I thought that I'd ghosted you. Yeah. And I thought you'd left because you didn't want to deal with my mess." They stared at each other, the tragedy of their miscommunication sitting like a third person in the room. "We were kids," Nicole whispered. "Stupid kids who didn't know how to fight for each other, who let circumstances tear us apart instead of holding on tighter. We're not kids anymore." Tae-Kyung stepped closer, rounding the desk. "We know what we lost. We know what it cost us. Which is exactly why we can't do this." Nicole backed up until she hit the window. "You're with Yuna. I'm engaged to Tae-Won. Your cousin, Tae-Kyung. The man who loves me, who's been nothing but good to me, who doesn't deserve. What about what you deserve?" He was right in front of her now, close enough that she could see the exhaustion in his eyes, the fine lines that hadn't been there 7 years ago. "Do you love him?" The question stripped her bare. "I care about him deeply," she said carefully. "That's not what I asked. It has to be enough." "Why? Because it's comfortable? Because it's easy? Because you're too afraid to reach for what you actually want? Because love isn't enough." The words exploded out of her. "Don't you get that? We loved each other 7 years ago and it wasn't enough to keep us together. Life still happened. Tragedy still happened. We still lost each other. So what makes you think love would be enough now?" "Because we're not the same people," he said fiercely. "Because we've survived things that should have broken us. Because what we have doesn't die just because it's inconvenient." Tears streamed down her face. "You don't understand what you're asking me to do. I'm asking you to be honest. With me. With yourself." His hands came up to frame her face, thumbs brushing away her tears. "Tell me you don't feel this. Tell me when I touch you, your whole body doesn't remember mine. Tell me you don't dream about us, about what we could have been. Tell me and I'll walk away. I'll spend the rest of my life watching you marry my cousin, and I won't say another word. Tae-Kyung. Tell me, Nicole." She looked up at him, at the man he'd become, and saw the boy she'd loved reflected in his eyes. Saw their past and all their possible futures colliding in this single moment. "I can't," she whispered brokenly. "I can't tell you that because it's not true. Every word you said is true, and I hate it. I hate that seeing you again made me realize I've been sleepwalking through my life. I hate that Tae-Won is wonderful and it's still not enough. I hate that I touch my bracelet and forget I'm not 21 anymore. I hate that my heart recognizes you like coming home after years of being lost. His thumb traced her bottom lip. Then stop hating it. I'm engaged. Then take off the ring. I can't hurt him like that. You're already hurting him by staying. The truth of it shattered something inside her. She was hurting everyone. Tae-Won by lying, Tae-Kyung by pushing him away, herself by pretending she was someone she wasn't. I don't know how to do this, she admitted. Neither do I, he said. But I know I can't watch you marry someone else. I know I can't spend the rest of my life wondering what if. I know. She kissed him. It wasn't planned. Wasn't thought through. It was pure instinct. 7 years of grief and longing and love that had never died pouring into that single point of contact. His response was immediate. His hands slid into her hair, tilting her head to deepen the kiss. She grabbed his shirt, pulling him closer, closer, trying to erase the years between them through sheer force of wanting. The kiss was desperate and hungry and achingly familiar, like coming home, like first love and last love and only love all wrapped into one devastating moment. They broke apart only when oxygen became non-negotiable, foreheads pressed together, breathing each other's air. Nicole, he breathed. She couldn't answer, could only stare at him with wide, shocked eyes as reality came crashing back in. She'd just kissed her fiancé's cousin, in her office, while wearing an engagement ring. Oh God, she whispered. Oh God, what did I do? Nicole, it's okay. It's not okay. She pushed past him, stumbling to her desk. Her hands shook as she pressed them flat against the wood, trying to ground herself. Nothing about this is okay. I betrayed him. I looked Tae-Won in the eye this morning and told him I loved him. And then You didn't betray him, Tae-Kyung said carefully. You can't betray someone with feelings that existed before he ever met you. That's not how this works. She spun to face him. I made him a promise. I said yes when he proposed. I let him believe in a future I'm not sure I can give him. That's betrayal, Tae-Kyung. That's exactly what betrayal looks like. He moved toward her, hands raised in a placating gesture. Then end it. Tell him the truth. You don't have to marry someone just because you said yes before you knew you had another option. You're not an option, she said. But the words felt hollow even as she said them. You're with Yuna. You have a life. This, she gestured between them. This is just unfinished business. 7-year-old feelings that should have stayed buried. You don't believe that. I have to believe that. Why? Because the alternative destroys everything. Her voice broke completely. Because I love Tae-Won enough not to want to hurt him this way. Because being with you means breaking 3 hearts, maybe 4. Because I've already lost you once and it nearly killed me. And I don't think I could survive losing you again. The admission hung in the air, raw and exposed. Tae-Kyung closed the distance between them slowly, carefully, like approaching a wounded animal. You won't lose me this time. You can't promise that. I can try. She looked at him, really looked at him, saw the tattoos that hadn't been there before, the lines on his face that spoke of hard years and harder choices, the success he'd built from the ashes of their relationship. He'd survived losing her once, built an empire on the foundation of that pain, and she'd survived losing him, built a life, a career, a future that looked good on paper. But looking good on paper wasn't the same as being happy. I don't know what to do, she admitted quietly. Then don't do anything, he said. Not yet. Just don't marry him until you're sure. Don't make a choice out of guilt or obligation or fear. Make it because it's what you really want. And if what I want hurts everyone involved, then at least you'll have been honest. Nicole laughed, the sound bitter and broken. Honest. God, I don't even know what that means anymore. Tae-Kyung reached for her hand, lacing his fingers through hers. The gesture was simple, intimate, devastating in its familiarity. I should go, he said, but didn't move. Yes, she agreed, but didn't pull away. They stood there for a long moment, hands intertwined, both of them knowing they'd crossed a line they couldn't uncross, knowing that everything was about to get so much worse before it could even think about getting better. Finally, he lifted her hand to his lips and pressed a kiss to her knuckles, a gesture that felt like both a greeting and a goodbye. "This isn't over," he said. "It has to be." "It's not." Then he was gone, the door clicking shut behind him with a finality that echoed in the sudden silence. Nicole sank into her desk chair, head in her hands, and let herself break. Her lips still tingled from the kiss. Her hand still felt the ghost of his grip. Her heart still hammered against her ribs like it was trying to escape the cage of her body. She'd kissed him. She'd kissed Tae-Kyung. And the worst part, the absolutely worst part, was that it hadn't felt wrong. It had felt like the first honest thing she'd done in 7 years. If this moment just hit you, take a breath with me. Stories like this aren't just fiction. They're reflections of real heartbreak. If you're still here, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss when I drop mind-blowing stories. And let me know in the comments. Have you ever loved someone at the wrong time? Yuna Park didn't get where she was by ignoring red flags. And the restaurant hallway? That was a red flag so bright it was practically on fire. She sat in her home office, laptop open, coffee going cold beside her, and did what she did best. Research. The kind of deep, methodical digging that turns suspicions into facts, and facts into weapons. Nicole Reynolds. Event planner. American. Studied in Seoul briefly during college. That last detail had stuck like a burr. Briefly during college. The same time Tae-Kyung had been in Seoul for school. The same time he'd mentioned once in passing that he'd dated someone seriously. Someone who'd broken his heart badly enough that he'd left Korea for years. Too coincidental. Yuna pulled up old social media accounts, university alumni pages, anything that might connect the dots. Took 3 hours and 2 more cups of coffee, but she found it. A photo from 7 years ago. Some university event. Blurry, the quality degraded by age and compression. But unmistakable. Tae-Kyung, younger. His arm around a young woman with natural coils and bright eyes. Both of them laughing at something off camera. His face soft in a way she'd never seen it. On the woman's wrist, catching the light, a delicate silver bracelet. An infinity bracelet. The same bracelet Nicole wore constantly. The one she touched like a talisman when she thought no one was watching. Yuna sat back in her chair, a cold smile spreading across her face. There you are. So Nicole wasn't just Tae-Won's fiancée. She was Tae-Kyung's ex, his college sweetheart, the one who'd disappeared and left him broken, the ghost he'd never quite managed to bury. And now she was back, about to marry into the family, living 5 miles away, close enough to reignite old flames. Well, Yuna murmured to herself, isn't this interesting? She wasn't angry. Anger was hot, reactive, sloppy. She was cold, calculating, already thinking 3 moves ahead. Confronting Tae-Kyung directly would be premature. He'd deny it, or worse, he'd confirm it and leave her. No, she needed leverage. Control. She needed to ensure that when everything exploded, and it would explode, she was positioned to walk away with minimal damage. The best way to do that? Plant doubt in Tae-Won's mind. Let him discover the truth himself. That way, when the explosion came, the devastation would be focused on Nicole and Tae-Kyung, not her. Yuna closed her laptop and reached for her phone. Coffee tomorrow? She texted Tae-Won. I'd love to hear more about the wedding plans. His response came quickly. Of course. Would love to. 2 p.m. work? Perfect, she replied, smiling. They met at a cafe in Gangnam, all glass and chrome and overpriced Americanos. Tae-Won arrived exactly on time, his smile genuine and warm in a way that would have made Yuna feel guilty if she were a different person. She wasn't. Thanks for suggesting this, Tae-Won said, settling into the chair across from her. I feel like we haven't had a chance to really talk, just the 2 of us. I know, Yuna said, stirring her latte with deliberate casualness. And since we're going to be family soon, I thought it would be nice to get to know each other better. You're clearly important to Tae-Kyung. Tae-Won's face lit up. He's like a brother to me. Always has been. Having him back in Seoul has been incredible. He speaks highly of you too, Yuna said, which was true enough. I'm glad he has family here. Stability. Though I have to admit, I worry sometimes. Tae-Won's expression shifted to concern. Worry about what? Oh, nothing major. Yuna waved a hand dismissively, then paused as if considering whether to continue. The hesitation was perfectly calculated. It's probably nothing. I'm probably reading too much into things. Into what? She let the silence stretch just long enough to feel uncomfortable before sighing. Tae-Kyung's been different since we got back. Distracted. Distant. I thought it was just the stress of the business expansion. But now I'm not so sure. Different how? Withdrawn, Yuna said carefully. He spaces out during conversations. Checks his phone constantly but never seems to be texting anyone. Doesn't sleep well. I've caught him just staring into space with this look on his face like... She stopped, shaking her head. I'm sorry. I shouldn't burden you with this. No, please. Tae-Won leaned forward, genuinely concerned. What kind of look? Like he's somewhere else. Someone else. Like part of him isn't here at all. Yuna met his eyes. Has he seemed off to you? Tae-Won considered. Maybe a little quiet, but I figured he was just adjusting. He's been gone for so long. Yuna took a sip of her latte. That dinner the other night, at the restaurant, did you notice anything unusual? Like what? The way he disappeared right after Nicole did. The name dropped like a stone into still water. When I found them in the hallway, they seemed... She let the sentence trail off deliberately. Tae-Won frowned. They seemed what? Intense, Yuna said. Like I'd interrupted something. But I'm sure it's nothing. Nicole was having a headache, and Tae-Kyung was just checking on her because you're cousins. Family looks out for each other. The seed was planted. She could see it taking root in the small furrow between Tae-Won's eyebrows. Right, he said slowly. Of course. I'm probably just being paranoid. Yuna continued, her tone light and self-deprecating. Relationships make you see threats where there aren't any, you know? I'm sure Nicole is wonderful. You clearly adore her. I do, Tae-Won said firmly. She's amazing. Strong, brilliant, kind. She's been through so much and still manages to be this incredible person. I'm lucky to have her. She is beautiful, Yuna agreed. And accomplished. You make a lovely couple. She paused, taking a delicate sip of her latte. How long have you been together? Almost 3 years now. And you met through work? Yeah, she planned an event for my company. I was immediately drawn to her. There was just something about her. This strength, this grace. But also this guardedness. Like she'd been hurt before and was afraid to let anyone in. Hurt before, Yuna repeated thoughtfully. Did she ever tell you about past relationships? College boyfriends, that sort of thing? Tae-Won shrugged. Not really. She mentioned dating casually back then, but nothing serious. She's pretty private about her past. Interesting. Yuna's finger traced the rim of her cup. You know, Tae-Kyung mentioned something once. Months ago, before we even came to Seoul. He was talking about his time in university here, and he mentioned dating someone. A girl named Nicole, actually. Same name. Funny coincidence. Right? Tae-Won's coffee cup froze halfway to his lips. What? Oh, I'm sure it's nothing, Yuna said quickly, waving her hand dismissively. Nicole isn't exactly an uncommon name, and he was so vague about it. Just said he dated a Nicole in college and it ended badly. Never brought it up again. But when your Nicole mentioned she'd studied here briefly, she let the sentence hang, watching his face carefully. That's... Tae-Won set his cup down with a tremor in his hand. When did he say this? Like I said, months ago. Before Seoul. It probably doesn't mean anything. Yuna's voice was perfectly casual, but her eyes were sharp. Though the timing does line up, doesn't it? She was here for a year during college. Same university as Tae-Kyung. Same time period. Lots of people went to that university, Tae-Won said, but his voice had lost its certainty. Of course, Yuna agreed smoothly. I'm probably connecting dots that aren't there. It's just that bracelet she wears. The infinity one. Tae-Kyung used to wear a similar chain years ago. I noticed it in an old photo once. Also an infinity symbol. He said it was from his college girlfriend. The one who disappeared on him. She watched the color drain from Tae-Won's face. But I'm sure it's nothing, Yuna continued, her tone light and reassuring even as she twisted the knife deeper. Different people, different stories. Just one of those weird coincidences. Though I suppose if you wanted to be sure, you could always just ask her. About her time in college. About who she dated. I'm sure she'd tell you if there was anything to tell. The implication was clear. If she hasn't told you by now, what else is she hiding? Has she let you in? Yuna asked, making it sound casual, curious. Tae-Won smiled, but something flickered in his eyes. I think so. I mean, she said yes when I proposed. But sometimes... He stopped, shook his head. Sometimes what? Nothing. It's stupid. Please, Yuna said gently. We're family. Or about to be. He sighed. Sometimes I feel like there's a part of her I can't reach. Like she's holding something back. She has this bracelet she wears all the time. Never takes it off, not even to shower. And whenever she touches it, she gets this faraway look. I asked her about it once, and she said it was from a friend, but the way she said it, he trailed off. Yuna's pulse quickened, but her expression remained sympathetic. The way she said it made you think it wasn't just a friend. I don't know. Maybe I'm imagining things. But doubt had crept into his voice, subtle as smoke. I'm sure it's nothing, Yuna said soothingly. Though it is interesting that she won't talk about it. Usually when you're about to marry someone, you share everything. Past relationships, old hurts, all of it. Don't you think? Yeah, Tae-Won said quietly. You'd think. They talked for another 20 minutes about lighter things. Wedding venues, Tae-Kyung's business, the upcoming holidays. But Yuna could see the seed she'd planted taking root, sending out tendrils of doubt into Tae-Won's previously unshakable certainty. When they parted ways, she kissed his cheek and told him she was so happy they'd had a chance to talk. Walking to her car, she allowed herself a small, satisfied smile. Phase 1 complete. Over the next week, Tae-Won started watching. He told himself he wasn't. Told himself he was being ridiculous, that Yuna's comments had gotten under his skin for no good reason. Nicole loved him. They were building a future together. Everything was fine, but he couldn't stop noticing things. The way Nicole smiled didn't quite reach her eyes anymore. How she'd started staying late at work more frequently, coming home exhausted and distant. The way she stared at her phone like she was waiting for something that never came. Or the way she flinched, almost imperceptibly, when he touched her unexpectedly. You okay? He'd asked one night, his hand on her shoulder. She jumped like he'd burned her, then forced a laugh. Sorry, just lost in thought. About what? Work, she'd said too quickly. This event is turning into a nightmare. But when he'd asked for details, she'd been vague, changing the subject to his day instead. Redirecting, deflecting, hiding something. He noticed the bracelet thing too, started really paying attention to it. She touched it constantly during dinner, while watching TV, lying in bed. Her fingers would find it without conscious thought, rubbing the silver infinity symbol like worry beads. That bracelet, he said one evening, keeping his tone casual. You really love it, huh? Nicole's hand stilled. Yeah, it's sentimental. From that friend you mentioned? Must have been a good friend. Something flickered across her face. Yeah, once upon a time. Do you still talk to them? No. The word came out too sharp. She softened it with a smile that looked painful. We lost touch years ago, before I met you. But you kept the bracelet. It's just a bracelet, Tae-Won. Except it clearly wasn't. Nothing about the way she wore it, touched it, protected it suggested it was just anything. Then there was the way she acted when Tae-Kyung was around. They had a family lunch at his grandmother's house. Just the four of them again. Tae-Won suggested it, wanting to build on the connection from the previous dinners. Nicole had hesitated before agreeing, and that hesitation itself was strange. At lunch, he watched her. Really watched her. The way her posture went rigid when Tae-Kyung entered the room. How her eyes would dart to him and then away, like looking directly at him hurt. The careful distance she maintained, never letting them get too close, never letting their hands accidentally touch when passing dishes. And Tae-Kyung, his cousin, his brother in all but blood. Tae-Kyung barely ate, barely participated in the conversation. Just sat there with this intense, almost hungry look on his face whenever Nicole spoke. Taywan had seen that look before. Years ago, when Tae-Kyung had been in college and mentioned a girlfriend he was crazy about. Before everything had fallen apart and he'd left Korea. The realization hit him like cold water. No, couldn't be. But once the thought formed, he couldn't unthink it. That night, he lay awake while Nicole slept beside him. Watched the rise and fall of her breathing. The way, even in sleep, her hand rested on her wrist, on that damned bracelet. Infinity symbol. Forever. Who had she promised forever to? He pulled out his phone, careful not to wake her, and did something he'd never thought he'd do. Something that felt like a violation of trust even as he justified it as protecting that same trust. He Googled Nicole's past, her college history, found out she'd studied in Seoul briefly, at the same university where Tae-Kyung had gone. At the same time, the pieces clicked together with sickening clarity. No, but the doubt was there now, corrosive as acid, eating away at every certainty he'd built his future on. He looked at Nicole sleeping peacefully beside him. This woman he loved, this woman he'd planned to marry, and wondered if he knew her at all. Nicole felt like she was drowning in slow motion. Every interaction with Tae-Won felt like walking through a minefield. She could feel his suspicion growing, could see it in the way he looked at her now, like he was trying to solve a puzzle whose pieces didn't quite fit. She wanted to tell him. The words built up in her throat a dozen times a day. I knew Tae-Kyung before. We were together. I loved him. I still love him. I'm so sorry. But every time she opened her mouth to confess, she saw his face. Open, trusting, full of love, and the words died. How could she destroy him like that? How could she take this good man who'd done nothing but love her and shatter his world because she couldn't let go of the past? Work became unbearable too. She jumped every time her office door opened, half expecting, half dreading to see Tae-Kyung standing there again. She couldn't focus, missed deadlines, made mistakes she'd never made before. Her assistant noticed. Are you okay, Ms. Reynolds? You seem off. Fine, Nicole lied. Just a lot on my plate. At night, she lay awake staring at the ceiling while Tae-Won slept and replayed that kiss in her office. The way Tae-Kyung had tasted like coming home. The way her body had recognized his like muscle memory. The way everything had felt right for the first time in 7 years, even though it was so devastatingly wrong. She touched the infinity bracelet and remembered being 21. Remembered believing in forever. Remembered thinking love could conquer anything. She'd been so naive. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. A text. Unknown number, but she knew who it was. I miss you. 3 words. Simple. Devastating. She should delete it. Block the number. Pretend she never saw it. Instead, she stared at the message until the screen went dark, then clutched the phone to her chest like it could fill the hollow, aching space inside her. This couldn't go on. Something had to give. Some choice had to be made. But every path forward looked like destruction, and she couldn't figure out which option destroyed the fewest lives. So she did nothing, and the walls closed in a little tighter every day. Tae-Won came home early on a Thursday. He hadn't planned to. The meeting he'd rushed through that afternoon could have easily stretched another hour, but he'd found himself glancing at his watch over and over, a restless unease gnawing at him until he finally stood, apologized, and left. He told himself it was instinct, that he missed Nicole, that lately she'd felt distant, like she was physically present but somewhere else entirely. He'd meant to surprise Nicole, maybe take her to dinner or suggest they order in and spend the evening just talking. Really talking the way they used to before this distance had crept between them. He needed to reconnect with her. Needed to prove to himself that Yuna's insinuations and his own suspicions were wrong. That the woman he loved was still the woman he thought she was. The apartment was quiet when he opened the door. He set his briefcase down carefully, his eyes automatically going to the shoe rack near the entrance. Nicole's shoes were there. Flats she wore to work, heels tucked beside them. Relief flickered. Then his gaze dropped lower. Men's dress shoes. Not his. They were expensive, polished leather, Italian make. Shoes worn by someone who belonged in tailored suits and private offices. His stomach tightened sharply, like a fist closing around his gut. Maybe a colleague, he told himself. Maybe someone from her company. Maybe, Nicole? He called out. No answer. He moved further into the apartment. Heard voices. Low. Intense. Coming from the living room. Can't keep doing this. That was Nicole's voice, thick with tears. I know. A male voice. Deep. Achingly familiar. But I can't stay away from you either. Tae-Won's heart stopped. His feet moved before his mind caught up, carrying him down the short hallway. The world narrowed to tunnel vision, his pulse roaring in his ears. He rounded the corner, and his world exploded. They were standing in the middle of the living room. Too close. So close their bodies were almost touching. Tae-Kyung's hand was raised toward Nicole's face, his fingers hovering near her cheek. Nicole's eyes were closed, tears streaming down her face, her whole body trembling. They were leaning toward each other, gravitating together like planets caught in each other's orbit. About to kiss. About to... What the hell is this? The words tore out of Tae-Won's throat, strangled and raw, barely recognizable as his own. They sprang apart, faces identical masks of shock and guilt. But it was too late. He'd seen it. Had seen everything in that frozen moment before they'd noticed him. The way they looked at each other. The way they'd been drawn together. The intimacy in their body language that spoke of history, of familiarity, of love. A past that had never actually stayed in the past. Tae-Won. Nicole started, her voice breaking. Don't. He held up a hand and was distantly surprised to see it shaking. His whole body was shaking. Don't say my name. Don't try to explain this away. Cousin, Tae-Kyung began. And you. Tae-Won turned on him and felt rage ignite in his chest. Pure, incandescent rage. Zip it. Zip. I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to my fiancée. The woman I was going to marry. The woman I was going to spend the rest of my life with. He looked at Nicole and felt something crack in his chest when he saw the guilt written all over her face. Who is he to you? The question came out quiet, deadly. And don't you dare lie to me. Not now. Not after what I just saw. Nicole's lips parted, closed. She looked like she was drowning. Tell me, Tae-Won demanded, his voice rising. Who the hell is he to you? The silence that followed was deafening. Tae-Won laughed, the sound bitter and broken. You can't even answer. Jesus Christ, Nicole. You can't even answer. Tae-Won, please. She tried again. Please what? He could feel tears burning behind his eyes now. Please forgive you? Please understand? I've been watching you, Nicole. For weeks. Weeks. He ran his hand through his hair, gripping it hard enough to hurt. I thought I was going crazy. I thought maybe I was being paranoid. But I wasn't, was I? A tear slipped down Nicole's cheek. Every time he walks into a room, your whole body goes rigid. Tae-Won's voice cracked. You can't even look at me anymore when he's around. You pull away when I try to hold you. Your mind is somewhere else. Someone else. And I'm standing right there like a fool wondering what I did wrong. Tae-Won, it's not. And your phone. He pointed at it, sitting on the coffee table between them. You're always checking it. Always. Like you're waiting for something. Or someone. Tell me I'm wrong. Look me in the eye and tell me I'm wrong. She couldn't. He could see it in her face. The guilt. The shame. The truth she couldn't speak. Cousin, Tae-Kyung said carefully. Let's just calm down and... Zip it. Tae-Won whipped around to face him. I said zip. I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to my fiancé. So unless she tells me you mean nothing, you don't get to speak. The silence that followed felt like drowning. Tae-Won turned back to Nicole, and the hope flickering in his chest died when he saw her face. Tell me, he whispered. Tell me he means nothing. Tell me this is all in my head. Please, Nicole. Please. Her lips parted. He could see the lie forming, see her trying to save this. Save them. But when she looked at him, really looked at him, the lie died unsaid. I can't, she whispered, and Tae-Won felt his world end. His shoulders sagged. His mouth opened and closed with no sound. He stumbled backward, one hand reaching for the wall to steady himself because his legs suddenly didn't work. How long? The question came out strangled. How long have you known him? Nicole's vision blurred with tears. Years ago, before I met you, before any of this, before me. He tasted the words. Poison. You knew him before me. I didn't know he was your cousin, she said desperately. I swear I didn't know. But you knew him. The shout made her jump. You knew him and you didn't tell me. You looked me in the eye every single day and you didn't tell me. I thought it was over. Nicole's voice cracked. I thought it was in the past. I thought I'd moved on. I thought. Thought what? Tears ran down his face now. Thought you could just pretend? Thought it didn't matter? Thought I wouldn't notice the way you freeze up when he's near? The way you can't breathe properly when he's in the same room. Every word was a knife. The bracelet, Tae-Won said suddenly. That's from him, isn't it? That infinity bracelet you never take off. That you touch like a lifeline. He gave it to you. Nicole's hand flew to her wrist instinctively, confirming everything. Jesus Christ, Tae-Won breathed. You've been wearing his promise on your wrist while wearing my ring on your finger. How could you do that? How could you look at me and say you loved me while carrying him with you every single day? I did love you, Nicole sobbed. I do love you. You're a good man, Tae-Won. The best man I've ever known. You don't deserve this. Then why? His voice broke completely. Why did you say yes? Why did you let me believe we had a future? Because I wanted to believe it too. The confession tore out of her. I wanted so badly to be over him, to move on, to build something real with you. And I did. What we had was real. It just wasn't enough. Tae-Won finished hollowly. I wasn't enough. That's not true. Yes, it is. He looked at her, and she saw the moment his heart finished breaking. I loved you, he said, past tense destroying her. I gave you everything, everything I had. I was ready to build a life with you. And you've been carrying him in your heart this whole time. Tae-Won, get out. His voice went flat, empty. Both of you, get out of my home. Please let me explain. There's nothing to explain, Nicole. He wouldn't look at her anymore. Couldn't. You just did. Now get out before I say something I can't take back. The engagement ring on her finger suddenly weighed 1,000 pounds. Nicole stood there, watching the man who'd loved her so completely turn into a stranger. Watching 3 years of happiness disintegrate into ash. She wanted to speak, to apologize, to somehow make this better. But there were no words that could fix this. No explanation that could erase what he'd seen, what he now knew. With shaking hands, she slipped the ring off her finger, set it gently on the coffee table. Tae-Won stared at it like it was a grenade. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry. He said nothing, just stood there broken, while she gathered her purse and coat with trembling hands. Tae-Kyung moved toward the door, silent, his face carved from stone. As they reached the threshold, Tae-Won's voice stopped them. I hope he's worth it, he said quietly. I hope destroying 3 lives was worth whatever it is you think you have. Nicole turned back, tears streaming down her face. Tae-Won, go. He still wouldn't look at her. Just go. So she did. The door closed behind them with a finality that sounded like the end of everything. In the hallway, Nicole collapsed against the wall, sobs tearing out of her chest. Tae-Kyung stood beside her, his own face carved with guilt and grief, knowing there was nothing he could say that would make any of this okay. Inside the apartment, Tae-Won sank to the floor, head in his hands, and let himself break. The storm had finally made landfall, and nothing would ever be the same. What happens next? Can love survive this kind of betrayal? Can Tae-Won ever forgive them? Can Nicole and Tae-Kyung build something real from the wreckage they've created? And what about Yuna? She's not done yet. Part 3 is coming, and the aftermath is going to be brutal. If you thought this was intense, you haven't seen anything yet. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss it. Drop a comment telling me your thoughts. Let me know where you're watching from. See you in Part 3, Soul Lovers. This story isn't over yet.